3 years into my marriage to one of the Shin brothers and my best friends to the other, the woman they'd never gotten over came back. At the family dinner, Caleb Shin, my friend's husband, landed a vicious slap across her face for defending that woman. When I rushed over, Anna collapsed into my arms, sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. "Phoebe, I can't take this anymore. That bastard hit me. He actually hit me for her. I have to get out of here. What about you?" I thought of Damien Shin, my own husband. His growing coldness since Isabelle Thawne returned, the nights he never came home. A bitter smile touched my lips. "If you're running, I'm running with you. We planned for weeks," a secret whispered between us. Finally, we were on a plane, slipping away from it all without a soul knowing. But as I settled into my seat, my eyes met a face as cold as a glacier. Damien, just like that, we were dragged back and locked in a dark room in the Shin manor to reflect on our actions. As I racked my brain, trying to figure out which part of our perfect plan had gone wrong, Anna's voice, small and weak, broke the silence. "I'm so sorry, Phoebe. I did it for your own good." For a moment, I didn't process her words. I just stared at her. "What are you talking about?" Anna was already terrified of the dark. My flat, emotionless question was the final crack in her composure. She shrank back, finally confessing in a timid whisper. "Please don't be mad. Damien, he's the head of Shin Corporation. The man is terrifyingly smart. He knew something was up with us for ages. The day we left, I had just grabbed my suitcase and opened my door. And there he was, a face that could freeze hell over. He was waiting for me. You know how scared I am of your husband, especially when he gets that look." He started grilling me, and I was too terrified to even lie. I told him everything. I couldn't believe it. Our escape had been sabotaged from the inside. A firestorm of anger raged in my gut. But one look at Anna's face, a canvas of genuine fear and remorse, softened the edges of my fury. A headache began to throb at my temples. I rubbed the bridge of my nose, forcing my voice to be gentle. "Then why didn't you tell me on the way to the airport? If he knew, we could have just canceled the plan, thrown him off our trail, and figured something else out later. But now look at us. He has all the leverage." At the mention of this, Anna's own anger flared. "It's all Damien's fault. I thought, okay, even if he was going to stop us, he'd just take you back. I never imagined he'd interfere with me. I'm not his wife." Such a naive thought. That was my best friend. Wonderful in every way, but so naive it bordered on foolishness. The Shin brothers' father died young. Damien, as the eldest, saw himself as a father figure to Caleb. Once he knew our plan, how could he possibly let her go? Especially after the scene she'd made at the family dinner just days ago. If she left alone right now, what kind of rumors would start flying? I sighed, closing my eyes to hide the wave of exhaustion. I had poured so much of myself into planning this escape. Anna watched my face, her own expression crumbling, on the verge of tears. She suddenly threw her arms around my legs, her pout dramatic. "I'm sorry, Phoebe. Please don't be mad, okay? I was just trying to do what was best for you." Before I told him, I thought about it really hard. Damien is good to you, you know? He gives you anything you want. If you'd really run away with me, we might have had to struggle for a long, long time. I couldn't bear the thought of you suffering. So I figured if you stayed with Damien, at least you'd be protected. She paused, her face twisting with bitterness. "Besides, Caleb obviously doesn't want me anymore. I'm sure Damien told him about our plan the second he found out. But look, Caleb didn't even react. He didn't try to stop me. He didn't care that I was leaving. It doesn't matter if you escape or not. But him, he really doesn't love me anymore." Her tears extinguished the last embers of my anger. My heart ached for her. I pulled her into a tight hug, about to offer some comfort, when the door to the dark room was kicked open with a loud bang. Caleb stood in the doorway, his face a thundercloud as he glared at Anna. "Well, look at you, Anna. Gotten brave, have we? The girl who gets lost 5 blocks from home thinks she can run away? Who gave you the guts? So, I slapped you the other day. Big deal. You haven't exactly held back on me our whole lives, have you? Is this really necessary?" They had known each other since they were kids, and every argument inevitably turned into them dredging up the past. Just as I expected, Anna shot to her feet, her voice sharp with anger. "You think what happened then is the same as what happened the other day? That was when we were kids. We were just playing around." Caleb's eye twitched. He crossed his arms, his expression flat.
"Right.
Playing around. When we were 9, you pulled my chair out from under me as I stood up to answer a question in class. I hit my head on the desk behind me and got a mild concussion. When we were 13, you tied my shoelaces together while I was sleeping. I fell, broke my leg, and spent New Year's in the hospital. To you, that's all playing around. Well, after all these years, I only slapped you once. Seems to me I was being pretty generous. This kind of sparring was their normal." Watching them, I felt an unexpected pang of envy. Anna was cornered, her face flushed as she struggled for a response. Finally, the anger drained away, replaced by an icy calm. "Whatever you say, you still hit me for another woman. Caleb, I'll remember this for the rest of my life. Even if I can't leave today, this marriage is over." Anyone who knew her understood that as long as she was yelling and fighting, it wasn't serious. But when she lost the energy to even argue, that's when you knew her heart was truly broken. The gravity of the situation finally seemed to hit Caleb. Realizing he couldn't just charm his way out of this one, his expression sobered. He sighed and, to my surprise, turned to me. "You shouldn't just be watching the show, Phoebe. You're the one who really needs to think about what you've done. Anna and I have our issues, sure, misunderstandings we need to sort out. But my brother, he's respected you for 3 years. He's given you all the dignity a Shin wife could ask for. You never should have gotten involved in Anna's little drama today." Anna sniffled, her attention turning to me as well. "Yeah, Phoebe, I never asked. Why did you want to leave with me? I always thought Damien treated you with respect. He never embarrassed you in public. He gave you money to spend, not like my situation." She shot a venomous glare at Caleb and snorted. I had no choice but to leave. I froze, then lowered my eyes with a humorless smile.
"Respect."
Everyone else could see it so clearly. Even someone as oblivious as Anna could see it. For Damien, all he ever had for me was respect. I used to think that for a man as cold as him, respect and dignity were all he was capable of giving. But after Isabelle Thawne came back, I learned the truth. He was capable of love. Unlike Anna and Caleb's childhood romance, my marriage to Damien was a simple business arrangement. At first, I told myself he was just reserved and composed from years of running Shin Corporation. A loveless, arranged marriage was bound to be a bit cold. But after 3 years, I often wondered if his coldness went too far. We were husband and wife, but outside of family dinners at the manor and polite greetings in the morning and evening, we barely spoke. If I tried to show a little concern, I'd be met with a curt, "I don't like needy women," or "don't do unnecessary things." If his mother wasn't pressuring him for grandchild, I doubt he would have touched me more than a handful of times a month. And even when he did, it was like a chore, a duty he was performing for his elders. He'd work with a silent focus, and the moment he was finished, he would pull away without a trace of tenderness and head for the shower. No lingering touch, no shared warmth. I never felt an ounce of affection from him. If I didn't have Anna for company in the sprawling estate, the loneliness would have driven me mad long ago. I knew he wouldn't change for me, so I forced myself to adapt, to accept his chilling indifference. Until Isabelle Thawne came back, I watched him carefully the day he took her call. Longing, excitement, regret, resolve. For the first time, I saw a storm of complex emotions cross his perpetually frozen face. And in that moment, I knew how wrong I had been. The day Isabelle returned was my birthday. I'd swallowed my pride and begged him for days, finally getting him to agree to spend it with me like a normal couple. A shopping trip, a movie, a candlelit dinner. But after that phone call, he didn't even spare me a glance. As he rushed out the door, he threw a careless excuse over his shoulder. "Urgent business at the office. I'll take you out when I get back." Clinging to that promise, I waited, my makeup flawless, my hope stubborn. I waited for hours, because I knew that was one thing about Damien. He never broke a promise. But I sat there as the sun climbed high and then sank below the horizon, the moon taking its place. My heart sank with it, piece by piece, into a dark abyss. At 3 in the morning, staring at the long list of rejected calls on my phone, I dialed his number one last time. This is your last chance, Damien, I thought. Decline this one and I'm done. But this time he answered. Where are you? I asked, my voice barely a whisper, the weight of the silence in our bedroom crushing me. The background noise on his end wasn't the hum of a server room or the tapping of keys. It was soft, melodic jazz and the clinking of expensive crystal. I told you, Phoebe. Business, he said, his voice clipped impatient. I'm nearly finished. Go to sleep. Is she back, Damien? The line went dead quiet. Not the silence of a dropped call, but the heavy, suffocating silence of a man caught in a lie he didn't think he'd have to tell yet. Go to sleep, Phoebe, he repeated, lower this time, before hanging up. The next morning, the tabloids did the work he was too cowardly to do. The return of the muse, Damien Shin spotted at private gallery opening with Isabelle Thawne. There was a photo. He wasn't looking at the art. He was looking at her with a raw, agonizing tenderness that I hadn't received in 3 years of marriage. He was holding her coat. He was leaning in to catch her whisper.
He looked alive.
That was the day I stopped being a wife and started being a ghost. Caleb's words snapped me back to the present. My brother respected you, he'd said. I looked at Caleb, then at Anna, who was watching me with those wide, pitying eyes. Respect is what you give a business partner, Caleb, I said, my voice sounding hollow even to my own ears. It's not what you give a wife. You hit Anna because you were passionate, because you were angry, because you felt something for her, even if it was misplaced.
Damien?
Damien treats me like a piece of fine furniture. He makes sure I'm polished, placed in the right light, and never moved. But he doesn't love the wood. He just likes the status of owning it. Caleb opened his mouth to argue, but a shadow fell across the doorway. Damien was there. He hadn't made a sound, yet the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. He wasn't in his suit anymore. His white shirt was unbuttoned at the collar, his sleeves rolled up, revealing the veins in his forearms. He looked weary, but his eyes were like flint.
Caleb,
take Anna to your wing, Damien commanded. It wasn't a suggestion. Anna scrambled to her feet, glancing at me with a look of pure terror before Caleb grabbed her arm, more gently this time, and led her out. Caleb paused at the door, looking at his brother. Damien, don't be too hard on her. She was just following Anna's lead. Damien didn't respond. He waited until the sound of their footsteps faded down the hall. Then he stepped into the room and closed the door. The click of the lock echoed like a gunshot. Reflect on your actions, he said, walking toward me. That was the instruction, Phoebe. Have you done it? I stayed seated on the small wooden bench, my back straight. I wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing me tremble. I've reflected on the fact that your security team is better than I thought, and that I need a better class of best friend. Damien stopped in front of me. He reached out, his fingers catching my chin and forcing me to look up. You tried to leave. Without a word. Without a settlement. You were just going to vanish. Why not? I've been invisible to you for years, I retorted, pulling my face away. Go to Isabelle, Damien. She's the one you want. Why drag me back to this prison? Isabelle is a ghost of the past, he said, his voice dropping to a dangerous rumble. You are my wife. You belong in this house, under my name. I don't care what you think you saw in a photograph. You are the one who wears the Shin ring. Then take it back. I stood up, my chest heaving. Take the ring. Take the dignity. I want to be someone's first choice, Damien. Not the woman who sits at home while her husband adjusts the lighting for another woman's return. Damien's expression shifted. The icy mask didn't break, but a crack appeared. He lunged forward, his hands slamming against the wall on either side of my head, pinning me. You think I don't want you? He hissed, his face inches from mine. You think these 3 years were a chore? I gave you space because you looked at me like I was a monster from the day we signed the papers. I stayed away because I didn't want to break you. You already broke me, I screamed. The night of my birthday, when you left me for her. I didn't leave you for her, he growled, his eyes burning with a sudden, dark fire. Isabelle was being blackmailed by her ex-husband. She called me because she had no one else. I settled it so she would stay away from you, from us, forever. I didn't tell you because I didn't want her name in your mouth. I froze. What? I've spent 3 years trying to build a world where you felt safe, he whispered, his grip on my shoulders tightening. And you repaid me by trying to board a plane to nowhere with a girl who can't even find her way out of a parking lot. He leaned in, his forehead resting against mine. You want passion, Phoebe? You want to know if I touch you out of duty? He didn't wait for an answer. His lips crashed onto mine, not the polite, cold kisses of our marriage, but something desperate, demanding, and utterly possessive. It tasted of salt and suppressed longing. He lifted me, my legs instinctively wrapping around his waist, as he backed me toward the small bed in the corner of the room. The dark room was no longer a place of reflection. It was a place of ruin. Damien's hands were frantic, stripping away the clothes I'd carefully chosen for my escape. You're not going anywhere, he rasped against my collarbone, his teeth grazing the skin. Not today. Not ever. When he entered me, it wasn't the rhythmic, silent duty I was used to. It was a storm. He was vocal, his breath jagged in my ear, calling my name as if it were a prayer and a curse all at once. Every thrust was a claim, a brutal reminder of the 3 years of silence he was finally breaking. Look at me, he commanded, his fingers tangling in my hair, forcing my eyes to meet his. Is this respect, Phoebe? Is this dignity? I couldn't answer. I could only cling to him, my nails digging into his shoulders, as the coldness that had defined our marriage melted into a white-hot, terrifying heat. In the aftermath, as we lay tangled in the shadows, Damien didn't head for the shower. He stayed, his arm draped heavily over my waist, pulling me back against his chest. If you ever try to leave again, he whispered into the crook of my neck, his voice once again as cold as a glacier but with a new, jagged edge, I won't just lock you in a room. I'll burn the airport down. I closed my eyes, feeling the steady thud of his heart against my back. I hadn't escaped. I had just traded a cold cage for a burning one. And as I felt his hand tighten its grip on me, I realized that for a man like Damien Shin, love wasn't a gift. It was a sentence.